We are an independent, spirit-filled church serving the North Fort Worth area. We are Mercy Life Church.
So I believe Pastor Will left in a really neat testimony. So if you will, turn your eyes to the testimony. Thank you.
And I'm going to give a brief something about this testimony. This here is edited. I found 3 different testimonies that I wanted to cover. I edited together 2 of them, and mainly the first one is pretty low quality, but after about 3 minutes, it's going to switch to a much higher quality one. So let's switch over.
And now our GMA exclusive interview with award-winning Christian music star Stephen Curtis Chapman and his beautiful family. They are speaking out for the first time about the death of their beloved 5-year-old daughter, Maria. She died this past May after her teenage brother accidentally ran over her in the family driveway. And as you can imagine, their grief is still enormous so soon after a tragedy like this. But when I sat down with them recently in their home in Nashville, Tennessee, I saw a family closer than ever before, there for one another, and a family facing the future with great hope.
Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Maria Sue Chapman. Oh, shh. That's the crowd. Okay, they're ready. Go. You're on.
For Maria Sue Chapman, singing was a family gift that came naturally. Her father, multi-award-winning Christian music megastar, Stephen Curtis Chapman.
This is life we've been given, made to be lived out.
Stephen and his wife, Mary Beth, were already the parents of 3 children, yet they were inspired by the encouragement of their daughter, Emily, to go 3 times to China to adopt their little girls, Shohana, Stevie Joy, and their youngest, Maria. They invited me to their home outside of Nashville, and Stephen remembered the moment he knew they were destined to return to China and adopt Maria, the orphan girl he met while on tour there. It was an email of this photo from his trip that changed all their lives.
And as it opened, it was instant. I knew that that was a picture of a daddy kissing his little girl. It wasn't just a guy with a little child that needed a home. It was a daddy and a little girl. It's just so clear when I saw it.
The Chapman family was complete, and Maria grew into her role as the baby girl of this loving family.
We're washing dishes and we're having some fun. We're gonna drive when the washing is done.
Tell us about your daughter.
We knew from the get-go that she was a firecracker, and even in China, just personality, contagious, just complete, just joyful, happy little baby.
Tragically, on May 21st, Maria died in a family driveway accident. Her 17-year-old brother, Will Franklin, was at the wheel. He was returning home.
The girls had been playing on the playground in complete accident. She was actually excited that he was coming home, and he is so great with the girls, and she was running to see him and ran, into the path of the car. So.
May 21st, 2008 is a day indelibly imprinted on the hearts and minds of Christian recording artist Stephen Curtis Chapman and his family, a day they would wipe out and do over in a heartbeat if given the chance. It was the day their beautiful adopted 5-year-old daughter, Maria, was hit by a truck driven by their own 17-year-old son, Will Franklin. Stephen joins me today to talk about that tragedy and how the family is healing. It's been a number of years already since that happened, but the journey to healing is still ongoing, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's it is, as my wife and I, she calls it the long walk out of, this very dark forest or very dark valley that won't be over until we're whole, until we're healed completely, until we see Jesus' face and Maria's face again. But the fact that we know we will is what keeps us walking and breathing and all of that, and has for these last almost 9 years now. And the journey is ongoing. It's definitely a different journey now as those steps progress. You find more breath in your lungs. You find yourself actually, laughing together again when you didn't know how you would ever do that, or feel joy, or have things to celebrate. When you think life's just going to be nothing but longing and waiting and aching and hurting, and that's all certainly still there. But by the grace of God, there are also lots of moments of joy and happiness and healing that we've experienced in these last 9 years.
I guess I know a lot of hope to people who go through those dark times. It's reality and hope. It's like, well, it's ongoing, and yet there's a day when all of a sudden you notice the sun shining, and there's a day when you find yourself laughing for the first time. And we prayed for that. I know when that day happened, everybody was praying for you. And I remember particularly praying for your son, Will Franklin, thinking, how is this young boy going to go on? This is the worst thing ever. How's he been healing?
Well, that's a question that so many people ask, and I think as much as anything, and again, I will probably every answer will have my wife and I in it, because our journey has been, together, and every step has been a step that we've taken together. And we did feel like the most prayed for family, I think, on the planet for a little window of time, and we were getting, calls from and emails and messages from all over the world, literally China, where we have a lot of friends and do a lot of work with children there, to Australia, where the Hillsong conference shut down right in the middle of their conference to pray for our family. A lot of friends here from Canada, all over the world, people praying for us. And Will Franklin, our son, part of one of the many layers of healing and God's faithfulness to us is just to get a chance to look at his life and to see how incredibly well he's doing. He met an amazing woman who we are very convinced is an angel. We keep looking for her wings. They're going to pop out one of these days, because she's just an amazing, amazing person. Jillian is her name. They met, and I had the privilege of marrying them it's been 4 years now. Wow. They asked me if I would marry them, and it was an incredible gift to get to be a part of that very special day, great day of just new beginning, for Will, who obviously will carry, as we all will, this, great burden with us through life. But God has just done amazing things in his life. He and his brother are in a band together called Colony House, which is sort of taking the music world by storm right now. They're just doing amazing. They've been on several national television shows, late night shows with Seth Meyers and the Conan Show and Today Show. And so they're getting all these great opportunities playing their music, which is very much woven together with the threads of their faith, of what has sustained them in their music. But they're in the mainstream music world. They're not doing Christian music, but they're taking kind of their faith and their message into their music. So that's been an amazing healing thing for Will. He's getting to do what he loves, playing drums. He's a great drummer.
Runs in the family.
Yeah. They toured with me for about 5 years. They were my boys were in my band, and actually even that was a gift of how God, met Will in those darkest days. It's when they were on tour with me, and so I got to have them on stage with me every night as we shared the story. Really every step. It's just been. We're trusting God's word, and we're dropping our anchor. Scripture talks about we have this hope as an anchor. And I said, we're going to drop our anchor again and again and again in the promises of God. That's our hope, and that's what's going to keep us taking the next step. And so Will is doing great. We're so thankful.
You share in your book, Between Heaven and the Real World, just about the power of declaring the word of God, that was sometimes the only thing you could hang on to, and it was really an act of faith, not always an act of your feelings, but how that was really part of your healing journey, was clinging and declaring the word of God. Yeah. I think of specifically Psalm 27 that you had said, I remain confident of this, I will see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living, just declaring that over your life. Have you seen the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living?
In ways that again, we could not have imagined, in May of 2008 or the weeks and months that followed. It was truly just holding on, purely by faith. And at that point, that scripture and Psalm 34:8, taste and see that the Lord is good, were honestly truths that we held on to only by faith, because it's hard to imagine. And I know people watching and listening to us right now many people are in that place of trying to imagine, how will I ever feel joy again? Will it even never feel appropriate to feel joy, to laugh, to be happy? Because my heart is so heavy and I'm so sad, and I can't imagine it will ever even seem right, to laugh and to feel that. And I think for us, I remember a very specific moment, and I share about it in telling my story in the book, that my wife and I, our daughter Emily, our oldest, who went off to Belfast, Northern Ireland with her husband, her new husband. They got married just a few months after Maria went to be with Jesus. And that was one of our first real healing moments and days where we felt joy, was just being at their wedding and then their reception, which God kind of pulled the veil back a little bit. That glass, that dark glass that we look through, the cloudy dark glass that Scripture talks about, it got clear for just that afternoon and that evening as I looked out and I saw my family dancing. And I get emotional talking about it because it was such an amazing moment to see, my grandmother, and my Uncle Barry, who I never could imagine seeing him on a dance floor. He's out there with his daughter, and I see all of my little girls and all of our nieces. We have several nieces adopted from China, and they're out there dancing with their uncles, and everybody's just having this amazing time. And this was only 6 months after Maria went to be with Jesus, and I just felt like Jesus said, "This is just a little glimpse of the wedding feast that's coming. This is what is to come, and it's where Maria is, and it's going to be beyond anything you can imagine. Just get a little glimpse of this." And that was, I think, a first beginning. And Emily and her husband went on to Belfast, Northern Ireland, for Emily to continue studies, and ended up getting her master's degree there. And her husband was in school at a Bible college, and they got pregnant and had our first grandbaby, a little girl named Eiley. And my wife and I were standing at her crib in a little chilly apartment. It was very cold there, but we're standing at the crib, and our arms around each other, and we just have this realization, and tears are flowing, and just looking at this beautiful new life. And we just could hear God whispering to our hearts, taste and see, I'm good. There's going to be redemption. There's going to be restoration. There are going to be new things to celebrate and new hope to keep you going forward.
And sometimes it's just hanging on in faith until that day comes, right? And we start seeing the redemption of just all the pain we've suffered. We're still praying and cheering for you to see even more of that in the days ahead. And thanks for sharing so honestly in your book of your life and your pain and your painful parts too.
Yeah, thank you.
I know a lot of people watching this are going through their own dark night of the soul. I hope you pick up Stephen's book, Amazing Between Heaven and the Real World, a very honest look at what it's like to have faith and sometimes cling to it just, with all of your strength, and it's all you can do. If you're watching this and that's you today, we just want to encourage you to give our prayer lines a call. The number's on the screen, 1-866-273-4444. There's not a time of the day or night that there will not be someone on the other end to pray with you. You don't even have to give your name, but just sometimes talking about it and having someone, a listening ear, and having someone lift your concerns up to God when you don't even have the voice to do that is exactly what you need. So give us a call.
And that did not switch to me. Hold on. There we go. Okay. Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. Well, hello everyone, and let me make sure the key is on. And we're going to see if it's not letting me turn the key on. Okay. Well, hello everyone. And so, yeah, that was today's message, testimony, and basically talking about how he went through a death in his family and stuff, and just even how after 9 years, they were still dealing with it. So it's not showing up here. Can you pull up my name key? My name key? Okay. Well, hello, everyone. I am William Henley. I'm the Executive Associate Pastor here. MDiv, doctorate student. Today's message is going to be angry at God. And the thing about this is I know it's Thanksgiving weekend, but, not everyone is happy during the holidays. And me, myself, I'm usually depressed from about mid-November to early March. And I'm sure, you may be thinking, well, why is that? Well, there were 3 life-changing events that happened to me between January of 2006 and November 2008. Some people know some of this, but before today, only 3 people know this whole story. So let's see. I grew up Baptist, I was really, really good there. I went to a Baptist college. Baptist college. Let's see, just some pictures of me at college. I answered the call into ministry in 1996. I was even a summer missionary. And the thing is, come on, switch back over to camera 2. Okay, can you hit green screen for me, please? Thank you. Okay, so in summer 2001, I had a job lined up with American Airlines after I graduated. I graduated in December of 2001. During that time, 9/11 happened. On top of this, I was a computer science major, and we just had the dot-com bust back in 2000. So I got out of school, and there was just no work. I had 4 years of these just awful jobs. I worked at Burger King for a year with Tristen's dad. Then worked at Whataburger for a while. A lot of us went over to Whataburger because they paid almost twice what Burger King was paying, and had better hours and better work conditions and everything else. I also was a substitute teacher for a while, did a lot of temp jobs. So in 2003, I started having these muscle issues. And the only way I can describe it is think that you go to a gym and you just have this really, really intense workout. And you just wake up the next day and you are so sore you can barely move. Well, now imagine that doesn't go away for 9 years. So in, I think it was July of 2003, I ended up moving to Tucson. My parents live in Tucson. I went out there for a year, basically to see doctors and specialists and stuff like this. Nobody could tell me what was wrong. I had one doctor say that he thought it was fibromyalgia, which at that point it was a term that they gave to people who basically is something was wrong, but nobody knew what it was. Now they actually have a definition for fibromyalgia, so I don't think that's what I had. But I'll tell you this: in 2012, I was healed of it at a healing service at Gateway. But that is not part of this story. So in 2004, I returned to DFW, still dealing with the muscle issues. And at this time, I got really, really involved in the church. And I'm talking about did outreach, just like always visiting, like new members or bedridden members, stuff like that. I was in tech. I ran camera, did sound. A lot of times did the PowerPoint presentation, stuff like that. Then I started working with the youth. So there were I was working about 40 plus hours a week at the church as a volunteer because I couldn't get a job. So it's like, what else was I going to do with my time? I spent it up at the church. Just really, really involved. Let's see. Okay. So I started taking the kids down the street to church. The one on the left lived next door to me, and then this was one of her friends. This is them at a children's camp one year. Just taking just kids to church. This one guy he had 4 daughters. He had one from his first marriage. Then he married a lady who had 3 kids. The other 2 are blurred out because they're not part of this story. All these people are like adults now, by the way. He had 4 daughters, and they lived down the street from me. And let's see, do I have any other? Okay, I'm going to go ahead. Oops, camera 2. Come on. There we go. Okay. Taking the kids down the street to the church. Basically, his wife left him with her 3 kids. That's actually kind of why he started dating another woman. The 2 are blurred out, or the other woman's kids. But point is, I was taking these kids to church with me. So, let's see. I was eventually begged with all I was doing to actually help out with this new children's program the church wanted to incorporate. Basically, they didn't have enough people unless I also helped out with this. So we launched this new program, and it was extremely successful. And, many, many new people came to the church. Well, there was a bit of a problem with this. You see, I was single and 25 years old. We were in a small town, which is really bad about rumors. So I didn't know this, but people were already kind of whispering why I was helping out with the kids, as a single male. So about this time, I was also encouraged to journal. without really being told what it was. And so the thing is I was looking for a place, some type of software or something where I could journal and I could do keywords and, stuff like that so I could look stuff up. And I wrote about everything. Everything I was dealing with, these, horrible thoughts I was dealing with. I was talking about, issues with some of the kids we were having at church and, how I was wondering how we should address them and stuff like that. Actually had a couple of kids who, came into the youth group whose hormones were going crazy. And it's like, okay, I was trying to write in my journal, okay, how should we address this? Well, here's the issue. The journaling site I had used was actually not a private journaling site. You see, this was in some of the early days of social media and all that, and it turned out it was actually a blogging site. Everything I wrote was public. And someone from the church found it. I was kicked out of the church, and there was a police investigation. And it just absolutely devastated me. Now, the police investigation came back and showed that I was completely clean. No issues whatsoever. But I was not able to go back to that church. Actually, after I left, the church actually started falling apart. Some people left with me. But the thing is, because of this rumor mills, even the people who stayed, well, the thing is, of course, without me, I think they may have gotten someone else to replace the program, so they could continue with the program. But everything at the church kind of started to fall down after that. The church has never recovered and is actually now, this was 2006, it's 2023 now, and the church may have, what do you think, about 40, 50 people? Yeah. Tristen says probably about 30 to 35. Yeah, so this is kind of what was going on here. Anyway, so this kind of, like I said, split the church. And at the time, are you going to transfer over? Okay. Okay, I'm starting to realize how this iPad works. I'm used to doing it actually on the device over there rather than the iPad. But it says, vindicate me, O God, and plead my cause against an unfaithful nation. Rescue me from those who are deceitful and do wicked. You are God, my stronghold. Why have you rejected me? Why must I go about mourning, oppressing the enemy? Send me your light and your faithful cure. Lead them, let them lead me. Let them bring me to your holy mountain, to the place you dwell. Then I will go to the altar of God, my joy, my delight. I will praise you, the lyre, O my God. This is the part that I had up on my wall. Why, my soul, are you downcast? Why are you so disturbed within me? Put your hope in God, for I will yet praise him, my Savior, my God. So, at this time, I got one of the kids became my goddaughter. After this, parents, never. Her parents never questioned me. They knew I was good. The other kids, I was really, really good with them. So we started going to a second church. Unfortunately, I transferred my membership, and the pastor of my previous church called the pastor of the new church. And so the thing is, of course, the pastor of the new church thought I was an even worse person than the previous church I was at. It was really, really toxic place. The reason I continued going there is because they had a fantastic children's program. I say that in hindsight, I started to realize just it wasn't. You see, they had some issues there. Their teachers were extremely unreliable. They would, a lot of times teachers would be 15, 20, 30 minutes late showing up. And on top of that, they would pretty much turn the kids loose when they were done with class, and they would go home and basically let the kids run wild while the adults were still in church. Well, they also turned the youth loose. And one of the kids I was taking, I guess, in 2023 terms, it would be called sexual assault. She was pretty much, I guess you could say, groped by one of the youth. So got called into, I reported it to the pastor, and eventually, because I didn't hear back, I reported it to CPS. A week and a half later, the pastor calls me into the office, and this is what I think he's wanting to talk about. Instead, he's talking about how horrible of a person I is and how I'm bringing all of these issues upon their church, and they asked me to leave. And I said, well, have you even investigated this thing? And they said, oh, yeah, the kid says that she started it. And I'm like, he's 16, she is 10. Who do you think started it? So, yeah, we left that church. Days after that, I landed my dream job. And right here, we have some of my coworkers. I thought I had a picture somewhere of me in the office. I love these people. And, just absolutely great. I love this job. It's still my favorite job I ever had. And I also found a new church at this time who was very, very, very supportive of me. And I just want to say, Pastor Jason, Billy, Ken, I just want to thank you guys for accepting me. And if any of you guys are watching, that church, even knowing what I did, what happened, just took me in. And they're the ones who let me heal and grow. Now, another thing that kind of happened during this time is, and this is from 2000, this started back in 2001, and I'm actually going to rewind a bit and tell you about Amy. And this was her on our first date. And I know she looks little there. She's 15 in this photo. And she actually had kidney transplant when she was like about 13 and stuff, but she kind of went into dialysis when she was 8. And it kind of stunts growth and, development and stuff. But this here is actually one of my favorite photos of her. This was taken the year before. And so our first date was actually not originally supposed to be a date. We did not call it that until later. You see, what was supposed to happen is it was Thanksgiving, our first date. Thanksgiving 2001. She was over at my aunt and uncle's house. And I've known her, since she was born. And so we were supposed to be going out like everyone to go see Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. And there was a huge family fight. Amy was actually supposed to be having her, transplant in about 2 or 3 days. And, we didn't want to get her upset. So basically, her and I just grabbed the keys. We took off. It was about 10 minutes after we'd left that we realized we were alone. But she didn't want to go back. I didn't really want to either at that point. So we went ahead and saw the movie. And interesting thing about that first time, I get to the theater. They try to sell me a child's ticket, and I said no, 2 adults. And they're like, 2 adults and 1 child, and I'm like, no, 2 adults. And they said, well, child goes up to age 12, and I'm like, yeah, she's 15. So they sold me the 2 tickets. We get inside, and she says to me, she's like, nobody's ever bought me an adult ticket. She said, why didn't you just take the child's ticket and save a couple of bucks? And I said, it's not right, and you're not a child. And there's also a funny story there about these Listerine pocket strips. And most people nowadays know what this is, but this was when they first came out. Nobody really knew what it was. They were doing a promo at the theater. They gave it to us, told us it was gum. And so we got inside, and she was the first one to open it up. And of course, it was kind of moist. They were all sticking together, and she's like, there's only 1 piece in here. Took the whole pack and put it in her mouth. Yeah. So anyways, nowadays, whenever I think of Listerine pocket strips, I just remember her pain there. So over the next year, chemistry developed, and although, we do have some old home movies that suggest that we both kind of liked each other before then. I mean, actually saw stuff from like 99 and 2000 where, in the video she can tell that, she's like checking me out. Actually, it was my aunt who realized that. There was chemistry before then, but definitely stuff kind of after that. So anyway, we kind of decided to put stuff on hold until she turned 18. Because, I was out of college at that time, and so, we're like, okay, if this is real, it's going to wait and stuff. Well, it was real. The issue was that her parents never did accept us being together. So one day in February of 2008, she's 21 at this time, we start talking to each other on social media. I believe it was MySpace at the time. And she's like, look, I'm just sick of being treated like a little kid. I'm just sick of being treated like a little kid. And I am like, okay, well, what do you want to do about this? And she said, well, let's elope. She's like, I got a feeling that after my parents see us together for a while, and maybe after a baby comes or something, they'll finally accept us. And I said, do you really want to do this between you and your parents? And she's like, yeah. She's like, I'm 21 and they won't even let me get my driver's license. She's like, I'm just had it with being treated like, I'm a little kid. And she said, give me a couple of days to get some stuff together, and I will contact you back and we can like run off to Vegas or something. So, actually you could say that she proposed to me. That was the last I ever heard of her. You see, on February 29th of 2008, she passed away. And it was just absolutely awful. And yeah, the worst part about it is the way I found out. I was at work. I get a call from my uncle, and he's like, the funeral's going to be here in a couple of days down in Brownwood. And I'm like, whose funeral? And he's like, what do you mean whose funeral? And I'm like, whose funeral? Who are you talking about? And he's like, you mean they haven't told you? And I'm like, told me what? And he was like, really, nobody told you that she's been in the hospital for like 2.5 weeks. And I'm like, who's been in the hospital for 2.5 weeks? And he's like, Amy's passed away. And I'm like, what? Wait, what? And he's like, yeah, she went in, she caught a bug. She went into the hospital for monitoring. They misdiagnosed her and gave her the wrong medicine. She kind of went into a septic shock. They were treating her. Then they tried giving her a feeding tube, and she resisted, and the doctors ended up tearing open her intestines with the feeding tube. She internally bled to death for like 18 hours before she passed away. I had no clue she was even in the hospital. Her mom called to make me a pallbearer. When I get to the funeral, though, I realize my name's not on the list of pallbearers. Turns out that her dad had, she was supposed to select 3 pallbearers. Her dad was supposed to select 3. Well, her dad had selected a 4th one and kicked me off. I also had issues getting off of work. First of all, they tried to tell me that because she wasn't immediately family, the Family Medical Leave Act didn't apply. I literally just said, I'm not going to be in tomorrow or the next day, and just left. They eventually gave me that time. But then when I was at the funeral, at the graveside, I get a call from my boss saying that there is an issue that only I can take care of. And I'm like, look, I'm at my fiance's graveside. I said, you guys take care of it. And hung up on him. It was just really, really bad. I returned to work, and they said, would you like to take it easy for a few days? And I'm like, no, just give me everything. I said, don't let me have any downtime. And so that was when things started to get bad. I kept myself from thinking about what was going on by keeping myself busy. Then I started having some stomach issues, and that's also about when I started the weight gain. I was 120 pounds before then. Within 6 months, I put on 60 pounds, which, okay, now I was actually up to a healthy weight, but I'm like, why am I putting on weight so quickly? But on top of this, started having weight gain. Well, then colonoscopy, I had a colonoscopy, and the day I was out from the colonoscopy, there was a call on my phone. I'm listening to it coming out of anesthesia, and pretty much it said, Will, don't go in tomorrow. We've had a baking crisis, and we've been told that we have to cut back 15% across the whole company. And as such, I was forced to lay you off. Thanksgiving 2008. I'm going to switch over to that. Okay. So my good friend Chrissy took this photo. This is Amy's. I'm sitting here. I'm the one taking the photo, and that's Amy's sisters, and I think that's her nephew. But what really hit me was right here. There I am with Amy's mom and her sister, and there's no Amy. And now I don't have my job to fall back on. There's supposed to be another picture there. I guess I didn't put it in there. Oh, yeah, I know. I think I know where it is. Okay. I think it's at the end of my sermon. Okay, so anyway, if you could go ahead and turn the key back on. Yeah. And let me know when we're good. Okay. So, the problem with this is, at this time, I fell into this time of depression and anger. The problem is that I could not deny that God existed because of everything He had done for me over the years. But I was angry at the 3 events that had happened. All 3 of these events were life-changing. And at this time, I finally started grieving. About the time that most people think that you should be over grieving, I started. Let me tell you, people grieve in different ways. Some people grieve at different times. And let me tell you, it is okay to not be okay. The thing is in this country, a lot of people say to us that, we're supposed to be pursuing life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And so if we're not happy, there's something wrong with us. And I got a lot of that. So as I'm dealing with this, people start looking at me and, saying that things are, I need help and stuff like this right when I'm starting the grieving process. And I just started becoming angrier and angrier and angrier at God. And the reason is I knew He was the one person who could take care of it, but I was angry at Him. So I got angry at Him, even angrier at Him, because I knew He was the one person that could fix it, and it became circular. And I just started getting angrier and angrier and angrier. I'm going to stop this story here for right now to get into today's scripture. And we're going to be looking at the book of Job. Now, I looked at the book of Job before. I've mentioned in the past that book of Job, we don't really know if it's a historical book or if it's made up. While doing the research for this message, I'm becoming more and more convinced that it's made up. And the reason is because it reads very, very similar to the book of Tobit, which in the book of Tobit, the guy basically tells about just how awful his life is, and just how like much of an ungodly person he is. The book of Job starts off with the exact opposite, with how godly he is. But there's a few other things in here that says to me yeah. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into this. I'm going to point out some of these things. There was once a man named Job who lived in the land of Uz. He was blameless, a man of complete integrity. He feared God and stayed away from evil. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters. Job's sons would take turns preparing feasts in their homes, and they would invite their sisters over to celebrate with them. And I'm going to move this over here. Okay. I'm actually going to go back here in just a second. I want to touch on something. Okay. First thing I want to touch about on here is you see where it says he had 7 sons and 3 daughters. 7 is a holy number. 3 is also a holy number. 7 plus 3 equals 10, which means completeness. Now, I want you to look here. He had 7,000 sheep. Once again, we see the 7. 3,000 camels. Once again, the number 3. So right here, this kind of suggests that this is not a true story. Job's sons would take turns preparing feasts in their homes, and they would also invite their 3 sisters to celebrate with them. When those celebrations had ended, sometimes after several days, Job would purify his children. He would get up early in the morning and offer a burnt offering for each of them. For Job said to them, "Perhaps my children have sinned and have cursed God in their hearts." This was Job's regular practice. So one thing, I want you to realize that this would have been 10 animals that he would have sacrificed. Another translation I read said that he went out every morning and offered burnt offerings. So according to that, that would have been, in a year, he would be offering 3,650 offerings. Once again, this kind of suggests that the story is made up. One day, the members of the heavenly court came to present themselves before the Lord, and the accuser, Satan, came with them. "Where have you come from?" the Lord asked Satan. Satan answered to the Lord, "I have been patrolling the earth, watching everything that's going on." Then the Lord asked Satan, "Have you noticed my servant Job? He is the finest man in all the earth. He is blameless, a man of complete integrity. He fears God and stays away from evil." Satan replied, "Yes, but Job has good reason to fear God. You have always put a wall of protection around him and his home and his property. You have made him prosper in everything he does. Look at how rich he is. But reach out and take away everything he has, and surely he will curse your face." "All right, you may test him," the Lord said to Satan. "Do whatever you want with everything he possesses, but don't harm him physically." So Satan left the Lord's presence. One day, when Job's sons and daughters were feasting at the oldest brother's house, a messenger arrived at Job's home with this news: "Your oxen were plowing with the donkeys feeding beside them. When the Sabines raided us, they stole all the animals and killed all the farmhands. I am the only one who escaped to tell you." While he was still speaking, another messenger arrived with this news. The fire of God has fallen from heaven and burned up your sheep and all the shepherds. I am the only one who escaped to tell you. While he was still speaking, a third messenger arrived with this news. 3 bands of Chaldean raiders have stolen your camels and killed your servants. I am the only one who escaped to tell you. While he was still speaking, another messenger arrived with this news. Your sons and daughters were feasting in the oldest brother's home. Suddenly, a powerful wind swept in from the wilderness and hit the house on all sides. The house collapsed, and all your children are dead. I am the only one who has escaped to tell you. Job stood up and tore his robe in grief. Then he shaved his hand and fell to the ground in worship. He said, I came naked from my mother's womb, and I will be naked when I leave. The Lord gave me what I had, and the Lord has taken it away. Praise the name of the Lord. In all of this, Job did not sin by blaming God. Let me get some water, and we're going to continue. By the way, sorry if the text on the screen is really small. It is because this is written in poetry form, and so that is why it's laid out like that. Normally, verses don't show up like that. Anyway, let's go on to Job 2. One day, the members of the heavenly court came again to present themselves before the Lord and said, the accuser came with them. And the Lord said, where have you come from? Satan answered, I have been patrolling the earth, watching everything that's going on. Then the Lord asked Satan, have you noticed my servant Job? He is the finest man in all the earth. He is blameless, a man of complete integrity. He fears God and stays away from evil. And he has maintained his integrity, even though you urged me to harm him without cause. Satan replied to the Lord, skin for skin. A man will give up everything he has to save his own life. But reach out and take away his health, and he will surely curse you to your faith. All right, do with him as you please, the Lord said to Satan, but spare his life. So Satan left the Lord's presence, and he struck Job with the terrible boils from head to foot. Job scraped his skin with a piece of broken pottery as he sat among the asses. His wife said to him, are you still trying to maintain your integrity? Curse God and die. But Job replied, you talk like a foolish woman. Should we accept only good things from the hand of God and never anything bad? So in all of this, Job did nothing wrong. When 3 of Job's friends heard of the tragedy he had suffered, they got together and traveled from their homes to confront and console him. Their names was Elphazar the Temat, Bildad the Shuhite, and Zophar the Naamathite. When they saw Job from a distance, they scarcely recognized him. Wailing loudly, they tore their robes and threw dust into the air over their heads to show their grief. Then they sat on the ground while he with him for 7 days and nights. No one said a word to Job, for he saw that his suffering was too great for words. So we're going to really start getting down into the book of Job now. I have edited it, and what we're going to start seeing is this conversation he has with his friends. And I have edited it down quite a bit, but the reason I chose these particular verses is this is very similar to conversations I had with my friends during this time. At last, Job spoke, and he cursed the day of his birth. He said, let the day of my birth be erased, and the night I was conceived. Let the day be turned to darkness. Let it be lost even to God on high, and let no light shine on it. Let the darkness and utter gloom claim that day for its own. Let a black cloud overshadow it, and let the darkness terrify him. Let that night be blotted off the calendar, never again to be counted among the days of the year, never again to appear among the months. Let that night be childish, let it have no hope. Let those who are experts at cursing, whose cursing could arouse Leviathan, curse that day. Let its morning stars remain dark. Let it hope for light, but in vain. May it never see the morning light. Curse that day for failing to shut my mother's womb, for letting me be born to see all this trouble. This was kind of what I was going through at the time. I wish I had never been born. Then Elphazar the Temite replied to Job, will you be patient and let me say a word? For who could keep from speaking out? In the past, you have encouraged many people. You have strengthened those who are weak. Your words have supported those who were failing. You encouraged with those shaking knees. But now, when trouble strikes, you lose heart. You are terrified when it touches you. Doesn't your reverence for God give you confidence? Doesn't your life of integrity give you hope? Stop thinking, do the innocent die? When have the upright ever been destroyed? My experience shows that those who plant trouble and cultivate evil will harvest the same. A breath from God destroys them. They vanish in a blast of anger. The lions roar and the wildcat snarls, but the teeth of strong lions be broken. The fierce lion will starve for lack of prey, and the cubs of the loneliness will be scattered. If I were you, I would go to God and present my case to him. He does great things too marvelous to understand. He performs countless miracles. But consider the joy of those corrected by God. Do not despise the discipline of the Almighty when you sin. And Job said, don't I have a right to complain? Don't wild donkeys bray when they find no grass, and oxen bellow when they have no food? Don't people complain about unsalted food? Does anyone want tasteless white off of an egg? My appetite disappears when I look at it. I gag at the thought of eating it. Oh, that I might have my request, that God would grant my desire. I wish he could crush me. I wish he could reach out his hand and kill me. At least I can take comfort in this. Despite the pain, I have not denied the words of the Holy One. But I do not have the strength to endure. I have nothing to live for. I believe this is one of his friends talking. It says, one should be kind. Oh no, this is Job saying. He said, one should be kind to a fainting friend, but you accuse me without any fear of the Almighty. And this was me. I was going through